Scorpio, pause for a second. Before you scroll, before you doubt, before you tell yourself you're just overthinking again. Feel your body, the tiniest tightening in your chest, the quiet shift in your stomach, that subtle moment where your spirit leans forward, like it recognizes something your mind hasn't fully admitted yet. Because this weekend isn't about drama. It's about clarity. It's about God holding up a mirror so clean, so undeniable, that the truth finally stops whispering and starts speaking in full sentences. And if you've been living with that feeling, the one you can't name out loud, the one you keep trying to soften with excuses, this message is for the part of you that already knows, the part that watches patterns, not promises, the part that listens to tone, not words, the part that loves deeply, but never loves blindly. Scorpio, you didn't become cautious because you're cold. You became cautious because you're sacred. You learned the difference between closeness and access. You learned that not everyone who sits near your heart deserves a permanent seat. And lately, there's been someone close, someone familiar, whose energy has been inconsistent, not always obvious, sometimes even sweet, sometimes supportive, sometimes there for you. But underneath it, there's static, a mismatch, like their words are polished, but their presence feels off, like they say the right things, but something inside you doesn't relax around them. And you've tried to be fair, haven't you? You've tried to give them grace. You've tried to explain their behavior as stress, as misunderstanding, as maybe I'm just tired. Scorpio, I'm not here to turn you into a detective. I'm here to return you to yourself. Because this weekend, God will show you who's real and who never was. And it won't require you to chase proof. It won't require you to spy, to beg, to interrogate, to spiral. It will come through something simple but sharp. A message you weren't meant to see. A tone shift that reveals the truth. A slip in conversation. A story that doesn't line up. A third party who can't carry the secret anymore. Or a moment where the mask drops, not slowly but suddenly, like someone's performance finally runs out of fuel. And when it happens, it will sting, yes. But it will also do something you haven't felt in a long time. It will make you breathe again. Because confusion is exhausting. And Scorpio, you've been carrying confusion like a hidden backpack, pretending it isn't heavy. Let's be honest, the betrayal isn't always in the biggest act. Sometimes the betrayal is in the quiet disrespect, the small manipulations, the way they make you question what you clearly felt, the way they twist a simple boundary into you being too intense. The way they disappear when you need them, then reappear when they need access to your softness again. Sometimes the betrayal is in the way they smile at you but compete with you, the way they compliment you but drain you, the way they praise your strength but secretly resent your growth. And Scorpio, that kind of energy is not love. It's attachment. It's proximity. It's convenience. This is where your soul is shifting. You're no longer in the season of proving. You're in the season of recognizing. God is not exposing this person to shame you. God is exposing this person to free you, to unchain you from the habit of lowering your standards just to keep the peace, to release you from the exhausting role of being the emotional translator for someone who keeps speaking in contradictions. Scorpio, you were never too much. You were simply too honest for someone who survives on fog. And if you're wondering why this is happening now, why the truth is pressing closer, here's the deeper reason. You're entering a new chapter where your peace is required. Not optional, required. The next part of your life cannot be built on half-truths, vague loyalty, and emotional performances. The next part of your life needs real support, real companionship, real alignment. And God, in His mercy, often removes what looks close but isn't clean. He protects you from staying one more year inside a connection that quietly steals your light while calling it love. He protects you from giving your sacred loyalty to someone who treats your heart like a place they can visit when it benefits them. So this weekend, pay attention to what happens in your body when you're around certain people. Pay attention to what happens after you share good news. Do they celebrate you, or do they subtly minimize it? Do they change the subject? Do they joke in a way that has teeth? Pay attention to how you feel after you leave their presence. Peaceful or drained, clear or confused. Scorpio, your nervous system is not being dramatic. It is recording data. Your spirit is not overreacting. It is reading energy. And when God wants you free, He doesn't always send lightning. Sometimes He sends clarity so sharp it feels like lightning. Now there's something important here. You may feel tempted to turn this into shame. How didn't I see it sooner? How did I let them in? Why did I ignore the red flags? Scorpio, stop. You didn't make a mistake by loving someone. You made a choice to believe. That is not weakness. That is courage. Now there's something important here. You may feel tempted to turn this into shame. How didn't I see it sooner? How did I let them in? Why did I ignore the red flags? Scorpio, stop. You didn't make a mistake by loving someone. You made a choice to believe. That is not weakness. That is courage. That is the kind of heart that still knows how to hope. And the lesson isn't that you should never trust again. The lesson is that you will never abandon yourself again. You will never trade your intuition for a false peace again. You will never silence your inner knowing just to keep someone else comfortable again. Because the truth is, you did feel it. You felt it in the pauses, in the contradictions, in the way their stories didn't land, in the way your energy tightened when they spoke. You felt it when something didn't add up, but you tried to be nice. You felt it when your mind made excuses, but your body refused to relax. Scorpio, your intuition was never asleep. It was wide awake, whispering through sensation, through discomfort, through that quiet internal alarm that kept turning on no matter how hard you tried to dim it. You didn't ignore the truth. You postponed it. You delayed it. Because you were loyal, because you wanted to give them room to be better, because you hoped the version of them you loved was real. And maybe they weren't fully evil. Maybe they weren't a cartoon villain. That's the tricky part. Some people aren't monsters. They're just unhealed, insecure, hungry for control, addicted to attention, addicted to being needed. Some people wear kindness the way others wear perfume, strong enough to cover what's rotting underneath. Scorpio, you don't need to demonize them. You just need to see clearly. You need to call things by their true names, because what you can name, you can release. What you keep vague will keep you trapped. Here's how this weekend may unfold for different Scorpios without turning your life into a superstition circus. For some of you, the reveal is accidental. You stumble upon something you weren't looking for. A message appears. A screen lights up. A comment is made in front of the wrong person. A detail slips. And suddenly the puzzle pieces click into place. For others of you, the reveal comes through another person, someone who's been holding the truth, maybe out of fear, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of loyalty to you. They finally speak because they can't watch you stay blind anymore. And for some of you, the reveal comes directly from the source, not out of nobility, but because their mask is cracking. They get defensive, they slip in anger, they confess half-truths to control the narrative. They try to frame you as the problem for noticing what's real. And Scorpio, when someone attacks you for asking for honesty, that's your answer. But no matter how it arrives, the result will be the same. You will stop questioning yourself. And that is the real miracle, not the exposure, the self-trust that returns afterward. Because when you live too long in confusion, you begin to distrust your own instincts. You begin to negotiate with your inner knowing. You begin to doubt your own emotional intelligence. And Scorpio, your emotional intelligence is not small. It's one of your gifts. It's the reason you can walk into a room and feel what others miss. It's the reason you can sense motives behind smiles. It's the reason you notice shifts before anyone says a word. This weekend is not just about someone being exposed. It's about you being restored. And after it happens, you'll feel a strange mixture, pain and relief, grief and lightness, anger and peace. Because betrayal hurts, but uncertainty hurts too. Betrayal cuts, but confusion slowly poisons. And Scorpio, you've been living with too many questions. Too many, maybe it's nothing. Too many, I don't want to assume. Too many, I'll just let it go. Let it go? You've been letting it go so long, you nearly let yourself go. This weekend, God is not letting you disappear inside someone else's illusion. So what do you do when the truth arrives? You don't explode. You don't rush. You don't perform strength like you're in a movie. You breathe. You let your body catch up. You let your emotions move through you without turning into self-hatred. You don't turn pain into punishment. You don't take the knife they handed you and start stabbing yourself with it. Scorpio, you are allowed to feel betrayed. You are allowed to feel angry. You are allowed to feel numb. You are allowed to mourn what you thought was real. But do not confuse your softness with stupidity. Do not confuse your loyalty with weakness. You loved. That is proof you were alive. That is proof your heart still works. Then you do the most Scorpio thing ever, but in the healthiest way. You choose your boundary like it's holy, not as revenge, not as performance, as protection. You stop explaining your feelings to someone committed to misunderstanding you. You stop debating your reality with someone who benefits from keeping you confused. You stop trying to fix a connection that's built on shaky ground. You stop editing your truth to keep the peace. And Scorpio, you let what falls, fall. Let who leaves, leave. Not because you're bitter, but because your peace is expensive now. You're going to notice something else too. When the wrong person is exposed, your energy returns, slowly at first. Like your creativity comes back, like your sleep becomes deeper, like your appetite for life returns, like your mind becomes quieter, because you've been spending so much mental energy interpreting, analyzing, forgiving, hoping, doubting, adjusting. That is labor, emotional labor. And when you stop doing unpaid emotional labor for someone who keeps draining you, your life begins to bloom again. Scorpio, the right people don't require you to abandon yourself to be loved. Now let's talk about the biggest lie you've been taught, that boundaries make you hard. No, boundaries make you safe. Boundaries are the language of emotional maturity. Boundaries are how you honor your time, your spirit, your future. And the people who truly love you will not be threatened by your limits. They will feel safer when you stand in your truth, because it signals you're not operating from desperation. You're operating from self-respect. Only manipulators fear boundaries. Only performers fear clarity. Only people who want access without accountability get angry when you stop tolerating fog. And Scorpio, the moment you choose your peace, you begin attracting a new level of connection. Not louder connections, cleaner connections. Not relationships where you're constantly proving. Relationships where you're simply seen. Not dynamics where you're constantly explaining. Dynamics where your feelings are respected the first time. Not love that feels like anxiety dressed up in romance. Love that feels like safety. Friendship that feels like calm. Family dynamics that stop requiring you to shrink to keep the room comfortable. Some of you will realize this exposure is not only about one person, it's a pattern of you being the strong one, the loyal one, the one who stays, the one who gives second chances, the one who understands. And Scorpio, understanding is beautiful, but not when it becomes a prison. Compassion is powerful, but not when it becomes a leash. This weekend is a turning point where you stop being the emotional shelter for people who refuse to do their own healing. You stop being the soft landing place for people who keep pushing you off cliffs. So here's the sacred instruction for you, Scorpio. Don't chase closure, choose clarity. Closure is often a fantasy. Clarity is real. Closure says, I need them to explain. Clarity says, I don't need permission to leave what hurts. Closure says, I need them to admit it. Clarity says, I saw enough. And the moment you choose clarity, your nervous system stops living in suspense. Your spirit stops being pulled in two directions. You stop waking up and wondering which version of them you're going to get today. You stop performing emotional gymnastics to keep something together that was never stable. And if you need a simple prayer for this weekend, let it be this. God, show me what's true, not what's loud, not what's charming, not what's familiar. Show me what's true. Protect my heart from illusion and protect my spirit from bitterness. Give me the strength to release what is not aligned and the peace to trust myself again. Scorpio, you don't need to become colder to become safer. You just need to become clearer. Now I want you to do something that trains the algorithm and your spirit at the same time, because yes, both are real forces in your world now. Leave a comment. I choose truth. Or if you want something stronger, write, I trust my intuition. Those words are not magic spells. They're commitments. They signal to your own mind that you're no longer negotiating with what you feel. And Scorpio, if this message is touching something deep inside you, don't keep it private. Share it with the Scorpio who has been carrying silent doubt, who has been questioning themselves, who has been staying in a connection that feels heavy but hard to explain. Your share could be the confirmation they needed to stop abandoning themselves. And when the exposure happens, because yes, it will feel like an exposure, remember you are not breaking down. You are breaking open. What is being revealed is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to deliver you. The truth may burn at first, but it cleans, it clears, it makes room. And in that open space, your life will rebuild itself with a different kind of foundation. Discernment, self-respect, and peace. So this weekend, Scorpio, watch, not with paranoia, with presence. Listen, not with fear, with self-trust. And when the truth shows itself, don't beg it to stay softer than it is. Truth is not always gentle, but it is always merciful. It stops you from wasting your love where it cannot grow. It stops you from investing your loyalty into a place that never intended to honor it. It stops you from shrinking your spirit to fit inside someone else's illusion. And as you step out of this fog, you'll realize something almost unbelievable. You were never crazy. You were never too sensitive. You were never wrong for noticing. You were simply awake in a room full of people pretending. And God is not asking you to fight them. God is asking you to free yourself, to walk away with your dignity intact, to keep your heart open but your boundaries holy, to love deeply but never at the cost of your own peace. This narrative is a mirror, a reflection of a potential timeline, an invitation to notice patterns and honor your intuition, not a promise carved in stone or a command to accuse anyone. Take what resonates, let the rest drift past like wind through leaves, and if you're facing real harm or coercion, choose safety and support in the real world too, because spiritual insight should never replace wise counsel, grounded choices, or the simple dignity of protecting your peace. Scorpio, you are not alone, you never were. And after this weekend, after the fog breaks, you won't just see who's real. You'll see yourself more clearly. And that is the kind of clarity no one can ever steal from you again.